Good morning, everybody. It is Friday or Freya Day. It's been an interesting week, but we're not going to worry about it because it's already gone and passed. We're going to start moving forward. And today's video is going to be all about this book that I got recently and I'm reading. Let me see if I can get that title closer to you guys. It's called Haggie, The Nordic Secrets to a Happy Life. And I've already read, well, let's get past all the non-information pages. I read about that much. The intro, and then into the starting. And I wanted to start on this book and stick with this book for a while. We get to go through it together. I will probably read a little bit ahead of the videos just so I can not stumble over my words unless I get overly excited, which when I was reading this book, trying to read this book and fall asleep was not smart because I was getting overly excited. But the very first chapter, the very first chapter, see, I'm already stumbling over my words, is called Nature and the Lessons, or the Seasons, not the lessons, excuse me. Nature and the Seasons. Now, I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm just going to go through, and the very first part of that chapter or area is called Into the Wild. And what I gathered from that part alone was to basically, if you're not if you're not somebody who lives out in the woods, or if you're not somebody who's surrounded by nature, and this is towards people who live in big cities or people like me who, I live in the suburbs, not the suburbs. I'm nowhere near the suburbs. I live in a rural area. I live out in a small town. Actually, it's now Raleigh is now considered by most a small city, and even a small city has its issues with having nature. We do have our parks, and we have our walk through the woods, and we have our jogging paths and walking paths, whatnot, to go through wooded areas throughout town. But basically what they're saying, or what I gathered from this, is bring nature inside and use candles. They're saying basically just bringing in a handful of fresh cut wildflowers and putting it into a water vase, or having she even says they don't have to be actual candles with a flame. They could be those artificial candles like I have that have a flickering light on top. The ambiance of the candles, the flickering or dancing of the light like an actual real candle, brings a certain sense of natural elements into the house. And she even goes to quote some people who've written books, like she quotes a Diane Ackerman, who writes The Natural History of the Senses. And she goes to talk about how smell is the most direct of all of our senses, and thus has the capacity to trigger the most overwhelming nostalgia. So basically, certain smells, the smell of wildflowers, the scent of burning candles, if you burn candles, or during the wintertime if you have a fireplace and you use your fireplace, not only just to keep your house warm or the room that you're in warm, but the smell of the burning wood, the sound of the crackling fire, it brings us closer to nature. That's part of Haggie, is just regaining our senses of being close to nature, whether it's bouquets of flower in the house, the smell of burning of a fireplace or a scented candle, anything that basically has a sense of nature. And I've been saying that for a long time. In fact, I sat down yesterday and talked to Mom about becoming more in tune with nature by bringing bouquets of flowers in and using more candles around the house. The two things we have to worry about here around the house is you don't really want to leave an open flamed candle unmonitored, because there's a chance of it falling over, or the candle wax being so hot that it could catch something on fire. That's one of the things that I like about, even though this is not a real candle, it's the factor that this base that it's on is designed with a bowl in the bottom to catch the dripping wax, so it doesn't drip on something that might be flammable. And it has a nice little light, and it does flicker, so it does look like an actual candle. I'm not in here that often at night, so I don't get to play around with my artificial candles or anything like that. But if you choose to burn a wax candle, try to get something where there's a bowl or some sort of catch underneath the candlestick, or, sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze, or whatever it's on. Because if for God forbid some reason your wax happens to melt on paper or something that could be flammable, you got to watch that. I almost caught the house on fire one time because the fact that I had paper too close to an actual open candle. Luckily, I caught it on time before it started a actual flame up. But she also goes to sit here and tell us that, hold on, I'm trying to find it. She's talking about sensory experience that trigger simple responses or similar responses. I mean, how many of us grew up during a time where, especially towards the holidays, the family was gathering and there's always some kind of smell of fresh baked cookies or Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner on the stove. It's one of those things where even today at my age, certain things that happen around the house, certain smells, certain events trigger memories, happy memories. And that's all Haggie is, bringing forth the happy memories of your childhood, bringing forth happy memories of your adulthood, trying to do things to not only reconnect us to nature, but to make life easier and happier and less stressful. So it's one of those things where it's like, she even goes to talk about how in our DNA is basically not only is it a combination of your parents or your lineage, but it's your DNA goes all the way back to the dawning of your ancestors. So let's say your ancestors were from Germany. I'm just taking Germany because I know what Germany looks like. But your family came to America during either pre or post World War I, World War II. Let's say if you're German, your family came to America to escape the oppression of Hitler or escape the war, World War I, World War II, where Germany and surrounding countries were still fighting over border territories. So, like, the stories I heard about my grandfather, my mom's father, basically, he is directly from Germany. His sister, who came with him, before she passed away, she had a combination of Alzheimer's and dementia. And she thought she was a little girl back in Germany, and everything was wunderbar, which is German for wonderful. And she was talking German and acting as if, her memory from her childhood was coming forth. They came here in the 1920s or 1930s, right after World War One, I think it was. Before Hitler and his BS propaganda. I can only imagine what what his sister was going through before she passed away with her dementia and whatnot, and what she was remembering. But the thing is I don't remember. I remember Germany when I was there in the 80s. But there are times where sense memory triggers memories not of my life, not of my lifetime. And according to her research, it's because it's DNA sense memory. Something in our DNA when something happens or something comes forth, whether it's smells, sounds, whatever our senses pick up, it triggers memories that could be from a time long ago when we weren't even alive. I find that to be quite intriguing, but it's part of who we are. Now, the second one, which is a longer chapter, is called Setting the Pace. And basically what she, let's see here. My Cliff Note says, to slow down, enjoy meals, embrace the natural world. Now, she goes to write, rather than fight the long, dark winters, we've learned how to embrace the cold, how to prepare for it, and how to find joy in being indoors when it's miserable outside. Themes I'll return to, basically stuff she'll talk about later. So basically, she's the author. Nope, there's no picture of her. The author of this book she was born and raised in Norway, and she's I think that's her right there. Hold on, let me try to mark my spot. This lovely lady. What I've read so far is she's basically living in London, but she's from Norway. She talks about her childhood in Norway throughout the book. But then I've got like whole sections kind of marked off because like Haggie is about getting back to the basics, about prioritizing what's important in life, and that means nothing without extent and an understanding of what makes us Nordics tick. Yeah, she talks about Nordics because this is the Nordic secret of happiness. And this is modern day Nordic. This is not back during the Vikings and whatnot. This is more the refined modern day lifestyle of the Nordics and how they still spend a good amount of time. To the Nordic people, what I've gathered from this book, what's important to them, it's not the job, it's not the income, it's getting back to nature, living happy, being with the family, getting together to enjoy foods and picnics and social gatherings. In fact, I think she even says this right here. To be Nordic is, by definition, to be both a keen observer of and practitioner in nature. Right there. That's kind of like, dude. Now, I know I read various different things about the Nordic people. Even today, the government, the employers, the whole nine yards, literally endorse taking time off of work and getting back to nature, getting out in the woods, enjoying nature, enjoying family, enjoying social gatherings, basically being Haggie. Haggie is not just a cultural thing, it's a lifestyle. It really is. And what I'm learning so far in this book is just kind of like, well, let's see here. All the things that's happened to me lately, even ever since I got, funny enough, I got these books, this book and another one, um, the day before I got fired. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it, so it's just going to be a brief. And I was looking at all the silver linings, and one of them was the chance to be able to sit down and read. And I started reading this, and I went, maybe the universe is telling me to slow down and get back to basics. So, here I am. Trying to get back to nature, trying to get back to basics. Also in the section called Setting the Pace, I have underlined that she goes to say that what I support most Nordics will recognize as a yearning for getting away from it all, of seeking solace in nature, preferably in a cabin far away from the nearest main road, with the old moose or sheep here and there for company. I'm going to go ahead and keep on reading it. That isn't necessarily a uniquely Nordic experience, and I'm actually aware that this veers into stereotyping territory. What is distinctively Norse is the freedom to roam in nature at any time of year, a right that is considered hold on, I just ran into a word that I don't know or don't remember. Okay, considered normal across the region. As Robert Fairlin writes and this is a book that he wrote, The Old Ways, A Journey on Foot. Now, basically, she's basically trying to say that it's not stereotypically Nordic for people to want to get out, away from the hustle and bustle, and get away from everyday life and get back to nature and the basics of living. Excuse me. But it's basically in Norway and the Nordic, not just Norway, but in most Nordic nations, it's basically they have open land, and some lands are not open, some lands are owned by other people, but it doesn't mean that the people who own certain sections of lands tell other people to stay out, because I have been learning that the Nordic people are very open, very free-spirited. Basically, it's like, oh, you're going through a walk? Well, enjoy my woods. Just don't do any damage. Don't set fire. Don't, you're more than welcome to come through my piece of land that I own, and go for a nice hike and whatnot. But just leave it as it was. And I think that's one of the things that most Americans have forgotten. Is most Americans, I've seen it in Yellowstone, and it really irritated me when I was there. I've seen a lot of Americans come to the national parks and whatnot to enjoy the experience of being in the wilderness and seeing wildlife and seeing natural phenomena like geysers and whatnot. But we don't always leave it the way we found it. I mean, I've seen so many people who literally will not hold on to their trash until they get to a trash bin or back home. They leave campsites a disaster. They throw trash out of their cars and leave it on the highway as they're driving. It just amazes me how uncaring and unconcerned Americans are for their environment, for their own country, compared to other nations. And it boggles my mind. And what gets even worse is the fact that the closer you get to a big major metropolitan, the more trash and junk and garbage that people could have taken care of you see on the side of the road. I get mad at myself sometimes. I go outside of my house and I don't know if it's mine or the neighbors or whatnot. But yes, we do have to contend here in the Plain States. We do have to contend with the ravages of Mother Nature and the blowing winds. And if our trash cans aren't our outdoor trash is not secured, it blows into your neighbor's yard or blows up against the shrubs surrounding your house. And I don't know how many times I've gone out to attempt to pick up garbage and just frustrates me. It's one of those things where it's like, I remember when I was in Germany, every weekend, the family would be outside during the warmer months, taking care of the yard, taking care of the garden, picking up trash, dealing with yard debris, stuff like that. But here in America, we've become so nonchalant, lazy about it and let it be. I don't understand it. I mean, yeah, I know when I was working and I was busy and I was too tired to do much inside, let alone outside, that I would let it be. But now it's kind of like, no. I gotta do all the things that we plan on doing around the house. I gotta take care of my house. I gotta take care of my yard. Yes, there are certain things I cannot do, and I'm willing to pay somebody a reasonable price to take care of it for me. But for the most part, if I didn't have allergies, if I did not have problems with bronchial asthma, I would probably be doing my own yard, my own hedge clipping, my own mowing, whatever needed to be done. But unfortunately, I do have seasonal problems, and usually when those seasonal problems are bugging me is when the yard needs to be dealt with, spring and fall. But anyhow, and I keep on going through this, and I get to this point, I want to read this to you as well. It is essentially a human right to have access to nature, a benefit that is available to everyone, not just the privileged few. You don't have to own fancy branded out. You don't have to own fancy branded outdoor gear or spend lots of money to be in nature. To be in nature. Status doesn't matter once you're in the wild. It's the ultimate. Okay. I cannot. Sorry. Oh, it is the ultimate idea. I'm skipping words. My dyslexia and ADD is getting to me. Basically, what she's saying is you don't have to have fancy Nike or Coleman or any of the top brand name gear for going outdoors, for hiking or biking or even snowshoeing or anything like that. You can have your atypical backpack. I mean, I've got 2 different backpacks. Either one of them I can use for stuffing a change of warmer clothes in case it gets cold, or food, or a bottle of water, or even strap a tent and a sleeping bag too. You don't have to have anything fancy. In fact, you don't even have to have a tent or a backpack. Just find yourself a nice place that you can curl up and take a nap. It's basically our God-given right to be able to go out into the woods, into nature, and take a hike. Go backpacking. If you know of an area that has bike paths, take your bike and go biking, whether it's on man created paths or nature created paths. The idea of basically sitting there and buying a piece of land that you're not building on and putting a fence around it just to say this is mine is it's ridiculous. Yeah, there are lots of places in Europe that have fenced in areas, but guess what? You know what's usually in those fenced in areas? Somebody's house, somebody's livestock. They don't fence it off just to say stay out. They fence it off to keep things in. They understand nature will do what nature wants to do no matter what. So we can sit here and put up all the fences and all the keep out, no trespassing signs. Guess what? Eventually those fences and those signs will fall down, collapse, be pulled down, be trampled on by something within nature. Whether the wind blows hard enough that the sign gets ripped off the tree, or some big animal, whether it's a moose, elk, deer, bear, various different types of animals that just go, what's this? It's in my way. Trample, trample, trample. I'm going through. Deer will jump over the fences. Bear will just, probably pull it down, find the stake or whatnot, and just rip it up. Most of the time, most of the fences that I see around here in the United States are more harmful to nature than beneficial. In most of Europe, a lot of their fence lines and whatnot are basically made out of wood and just simple wiring. I have never seen a fence in Europe that was made out of barbed wire, unless it was old World War II era surplus. But most farmers and most cattle, most ranchers, sheep herders, whatever you want to call them, they don't use barbed wire because something spooks one of their animals and that animal gets caught up in the barbed wire. Well, one, if it was a predator that spooked the animal now basically gets to have a free meal because the spooked sheep gets tangled up in that barbed wire, and either the sheep's going to die anyhow because the barbed wire is cutting into it, or the predatory animal is going to be able to get to the animal easier and maybe not get caught up in the barbed wire itself. I hate barbed wire for a multitude of reasons. I've gotten pants ripped on barbed wire. I nicked myself on barbed wire. I don't like it. It makes no sense to me. Of course, some of the smarter animals have used barbed wire to help them remove the thick outer layer after a long winter's nap, and you get tufts of animal fur in the barbed wire. And I've seen bear, elk, deer, even bison hair stuck on barbed wire. Go further into the book, and I have marked here, nature calms and allows you to reflect on the very essence of what living is about. True to that. Then I have marked here, studies also show a correlation between living in the city and a rise in mental illness. You wonder why a lot of city folk have issues, whether it's mental illness or anxiety. Well, anxiety is mental. The anxieties, anger, short fuses, higher levels of crime than the smaller communities. Like, well, Rolla's crime level has risen a little bit, but the more people that's jammed into a central location because this is what they choose to live, causes a lot of mental issues. In fact, I was more stressed out living in New York than I am here in Rolla. Mostly because of the fact that I'm not a big city person, and two, the just mental the the energies, the negative energies that I can feel because of the anxieties and all the other issues in a big city was not good for me. Then she goes in here and says, keep calm and hug a tree. The benefits of ecotherapy. And what they mean by that is basically the therapy of nature. Just being out in nature is a therapeutic experience alone. Then I have marked here, what I find continuously frustrating about nature. Is it frustrating? Yeah, frustrating about nature is the... Hold on. Let me read this real quick. Not frustrating. Okay, I'm sorry. What I find continually fascinating about nature is the way it brings about a feeling of clarity, a renewed focus, and a sense of purpose, as well as its healing properties. Time spent in nature has profound therapeutic benefits, something most of us who spend time outdoors probably realize on an intuitive level, and the recognition of this fact is increasingly gaining traction beyond the field of ecotherapy. This video is getting a little bit longer, so I might just cut off right here. But before I do that, she has a quote from a book called Back to Nature from April of Therapy Today. I guess it's a magazine or something like that. April of 2009. And she quotes, "It is in its most basic sense, ecotherapy is about the healing and psychological benefits of being in nature and natural settings. It is a modern context. The links between nature and positive effects on mental health can be traced back to the early part of the last century." It's because during the early part of the last century, we had more natural settings than we did city settings, or the cities weren't as big. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this little section before I get to the seasons. And it's I have one area underlined here that says, spending time in nature means you're less prone to brooding. Nature's nourishing properties aren't yet fully understood, but scientists and medical professionals are beginning to advocate more time spent in the great outdoors. The relationship between humans and nature has to be a receptacle one. I think that's the right word. No. Receptional one. I'll just spell out the words in case you guys know, so you can understand a little bit better. RECIPROCAL. Which means we have to know how to look after the outdoors, how to maintain it for the future. How to maintain it for the future. Stop cutting down whole freaking forest just for a farm. Animals can live among the trees better than mankind. Oh, well, actually, mankind and animals can live in the trees better than and be healthier than living in a freaking city. That, in fact, you're just taking away our oxygen supply. But I'm not going to get on that bandwagon. And then she has bullet points on basic benefits of being out in nature. First bullet point is boost self-esteem. Yeah, that's a big one for me. I need to do that. Helps people with mental health problems return to work. Don't really need the aspect of being able to return to work, but the thing is, for the Nordic nations, that's basically what they do. A lot of I've heard stories where a lot of jobs, a lot of businesses, if they notice that a individual worker is having stress issues, whatnot, they literally tell them, "You're not fired. We want you just to go spend a couple days, come back in 3 or 4 days after spending some time out in the woods." In other words, you're stressing out for no reason. Go take a nature break. I wish we can do that. I wish more companies here in America would do that, but the problem is there's more Americans than there are wooded areas. But I can think of places to send people, depending, like if we lived in the Northwest, go take a weekend in Yellowstone. Go take a couple days and hiking, go spend some time in Yellowstone. The Northeast, go to the Adirondacks, go to the Pocono Mountains, spend some time there. The Southeast, well, Florida Everglades, I don't know. The Central North, go to like Mount Rushmore and to the areas around that area. Here in the Midwest, we've got the Smoky Mountains, we've got the Ozark Mountains, we've got various different places to go for nature. The Southwest, because of Arizona, well, there are wooded areas in northern Arizona. Texas, I guess there's areas that people in Texas in the central South could go to. Next bullet point is improve physical health. It will help you improve physical health. Why? Let's see here. You're going on walks through nature. You're breathing in clean, fresh air instead of polluted city air. Yeah, I can see where that affected. And then reduces social isolation. Yeah, because one of the things that Haggie does promote is social gathering for fun things like social gathering with food. Something about having certain kinds of food is Haggie when in social settings. Well, look at your church's potluck dinners or potluck dinner. Yeah, potluck events. Couldn't think of the words. It's a social gathering with food. You're sharing unique kinds of food because not everybody likes the same thing. And if everybody brings in their favorite dish, like the last potluck I went to, I brung in my beef teriyaki. I brung in a bowl with the beef teriyaki and the juices after being cooked in white rice. It was a big hit. Everybody liked it. I offered to share the recipe, but not very many people took it. So I think what it is, a lot of people when it comes to potlucks is they like cooking their favorite dish, but trying to learn new dishes to cook is one of those kind of like thanks for the offer, but no thanks. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I don't want to learn how to cook it because a lot of people don't want to learn how to cook new things. The very last thing I'm going to share on this before I get off, because this is almost 40 minutes, is we all benefit from spending time in nature as often as possible. I believe that to be extremely true because, I mean, I spent time in nature when I was in Yellowstone. I enjoyed my time in the wilds, but that's me because I enjoy nature. Now, not everybody enjoys nature because some people are like, not to be rude, but girly girl. Oh, it's dirty. Oh, it's got bugs. Oh, it's not flat, stable ground. I don't have the right shoes. I don't have this. You know what? Do yourself a favor. You don't have to go out and buy a brand name pair of hiking boots. But if you want to go take a walk in the woods, and it's out in the woods, it's not a nature path in the big city or small town or whatever. It's not a paved path. It's not a level ground path. It's a natural path, what some people call a game path. Basically, it's a path that's been made throughout extended periods of time by animals who walked that path, and then humans started using that path for whatever reason. But I will tell you this much, especially here in America. Here in America, if you want to go on a nature hike, and I do suggest going on nature hikes, wear bright clothing. Learn about your area first off. Learn about the area. Like right now, here in the Midwest is turkey season, and people go out. At least I don't think it's officially. I don't know what the hunting seasons are, but you want to find out what your area's hunting season is. What kind of items are being hunted, like deer, turkey, whatever the hunting season is. And when you do that, learn if the time of the year that you want to go for a hike is a hunting season. Wear bright clothing. Now, nature, animals may not be able to see the bright clothing because the fact that most animals are colorblind. The bright clothing will help identify you as a person, and hopefully you won't accidentally get shot at by a hunter. Second off, in America especially, I don't know about it in Europe or whatnot, but in America especially, get yourself, either pick one up off the ground, a nice big long stick, branch that has fallen down that's nice and thick and whatnot. Or, if you're one of these people who have to buy their gear, get yourself a walking stick, a nice long one, not one that's just level with your hand to the ground, but something that's a little bit taller. 2 reasons why. One, as you're walking, you're banging that stick down. The vibration of the stick will cause any kind of reptilian snakes or anything like that that might be harmful to run the opposite direction, because they don't like loud noises and heavy, hard vibration. 2, if you get a long enough walking stick, and I don't have one in this room, but I've got one that I got back during my Renaissance days in Arizona. Tie bells to your, especially if you're in the mountain regions, tie bells or something that's going to make noise while you're walking, because that will scare away most predatory animals. There's only 1 or 2 different predatory animals that might be curious to what the noise is. And that's usually your big cats, your mountain lions, puma, whatever you want to call them. They're a little bit more curious than most predators, but most predators will hear the noise and go the opposite direction. Third thing, I said only 2, but actually there's a third thing. If you're going to go hiking in a mountainous area that may have mountain lions, bobcat, bears, anything like that, go in a group. Go in a group and have, just mild conversation. You don't have to be loud or anything like that. Just have, good mild conversation. Most predators will not try to attack if you're in a group. That's why when you hear stories about a mountain lion attacking a biker or a hiker or a jogger, most of the time those individuals are by themselves, and because they are moving quickly, in the predator's mind, anything that moves past them quickly is usually considered prey, because most prey animals will turn and run. Do not turn and run when it comes to a bear. As for a mountain lion or anything like that, I really don't know how to tell you to defend yourself, because the only way I know is to basically be noisy. I don't usually like being noisy when I go out in the wilderness, because I want to enjoy the serenity and peace of nature and not noise of other people or myself. Besides, most of the noise already happens up here. I don't need it out in the wild. If anybody, I'm going to give you advice about Yellowstone National Park, because I've worked there a number of times and I know a good deal about Yellowstone. Anybody who wants to go to like a national park, not only just to enjoy the nature of being out there in nature, but to enjoy the factor of like, ooh, this is a national park. Follow certain guidelines. First off, if you plan on going out into the backcountry, as they call it, go to your local ranger station. Make sure that they know what you're doing, where you're going. To a lot of places like Yellowstone National Park, you have to be certified in certain information before they let you go out there into the backwoods. Reason why is for your own safety. I will give you a couple quick safety pointers on Yellowstone. One, if going into the backcountry and there are pre-made trails, in other words, they're not game trails, they're paths that look like they have been made, and usually they're marked by stones or pillars or something like that to say that this is part of the path. If you stay within these markers, you're safe. If you go off those markers, there are a good chance that you can get into an area, a patch of ground that is only a couple inches thick, and that means your chances of falling into a boiling pool of 400, 500, 600 degree water and basically being boiled to death is high. I'm not trying to scare you away from going to Yellowstone. I am just trying to give you tips and pointers to basically keep you safe. Second thing is the park rangers will want to basically educate you on how to deal with wildlife, especially bears. Bears are abundant in Yellowstone National Park. I know a couple horror stories about bears. Bears. If you come across a bear, don't run. That will trigger the instinct of, ooh, food, time to chase. What you want to do is you want to start making a lot of noise, and if you have your walking stick, like I told you, take your walking stick, lift it high up your head to make you look bigger while making a lot of noise. And I do mean a lot of noise. Bears, for the most part, will basically not get aggressive. They'll want to basically turn around and leave. If a bear charges you, they do this for two reasons. One, it's a scare tactic, and two, to test your resolve. If the bear charges, do not run. If it literally looks like it's going to attack you, drop into a fetal position, curl yourself up, or basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep your stomach area as protected as possible, because if they get to that, you're basically a goner. Best time of the year to go to Yellowstone National Park is either late summer, early fall, because during the springtime, especially mama bear, during the springtime, if mama bear's got a cub and if she thinks she can basically take you down, she's going to try to take you down. If you make a lot of noise while walking, mama bear will try to shuffle her little ones out of the area, because male grizzly bears will eat cubs. That's one of the reasons why mama bears during the springtime, while the cubs are still young, are very aggressive, very protective. As for all the other animals in Yellowstone National Park, most of those animals will basically not want to have anything to do with you if you're making enough noise while walking. But I will tell you this much. Yellowstone National Park, especially Upper Yellowstone, has what they call the rut season. That's when the male elks are trying to chase off other male elks, so they have a harem of females. I have seen this happen in person. People think it's fun to stop and try to take pictures while two males are going at it. No. If they feel your vehicle is a threat, if they feel you are a threat to the harem that they are trying to gather, they will attack your vehicle. And those horns, those antlers on those elk, will rip up your car. I've seen it done to a nice bright red pickup truck. Pickup truck basically stopped to take pictures, and an elk came charging and literally rammed right through the bed of the truck with its antlers and started to rip the crap out of it and tore up a tire. That poor gentleman was stuck until the park rangers could get a tow truck to come in and tow this guy's vehicle. The story that I heard after that event was this guy tried to sue the national park because one of his animals got out of control. I'm sorry, this is a national park. We don't control the animals. They are part of the natural phenomenon of Yellowstone, and there is no, this is not a zoo. I laughed my tail end off. Gossip in Yellowstone National Park does fly pretty quickly between the park rangers and the other workers who are not part of the government system. They're just there to basically serve the people and keep everything clean. Thankfully, one of the duties of a maintenance person in Yellowstone is not cleaning up all the elk poo that's all over the Mammoth Hot Springs area. But to try to walk on it after it's dried and you hear crunch pop, is kind of like Rice Krispies. Anyhow, the natural world is an interesting phenomenon, and I'm sorry this video just got got very long, but the national park, the natural world is a phenomenon in itself. And anytime I go out into nature, or used to go out into nature on a regular basis, I literally could feel the connection. It does have a wellspring of benefits. Excuse me. But anyhow, tomorrow, when I go to do the next part of Chapter 1, Living Haggie, we're getting into the seasons: listless, insomnia, and long hibernation. And if I remember right, she talks a whole lot, there's a whole lot about basically how to live in harmony with nature and being prepared for the different aspects of nature and all her wonders and beings that Norway and the Nordic, not just Norway, but the Nordic nations, most of them are in areas that are extreme cold to beautiful warmth, short summers, long winters type deal. So we'll get into that tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, and I apologize it's long, but if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the question or comment box. If you're new to my channel and want to hear more about Haggie, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and then a little bell will pop up, and click on that bell, and YouTube will let you know when I put in my next video. Until next time, have a good day. God bless. Bye.